just like the balance stuff. Like you can just write one little thing that goes like get me the asset data, market data, the balance data, like it all together and like
Hail lobster.
and it's just like
Clean your
it's like chain or so.
What's that?
If Jordan Peterson, yeah, I don't know if Jordan Peterson chain where he
What's up?
Yeah, no sound from me neither.
I think they're muted.
We are muted. We haven't started yet because some people are still trying to get on Wi-Fi.
Go.
All right, everyone, that's remote. We're about to begin here in just a second. We can try to do this hybrid experience, which should be fun and interesting. Never in charge of lo-fi radio. Can we turn it off? There we go. Fantastic. All right. So welcome, everyone. We're doing a retro today. We're going to be covering the time frame between when we launched the airdrop Max Fox in July, all the way to basically when we launched the V2 open source version of the platform. Well, you guys did. I didn't do anything. Around November 18th. So that'll be the timeline we're covering. We're going to do the same format as we always do. We'll do timeline, filling in events, just gives everyone a refresher of exactly what happened. We'll do what worked well, what didn't go well, miscellaneous. We'll talk about those items, and then we'll finish with some coffee talk at the end to focus in on specific things. For those of you that are remote, for you guys to participate, if you guys DM me information, I will create sticky notes for it and put it up on the wall behind us as we're going through exercises. If you didn't hear me, this first one is we're going to be filling in major timeline events between the airdrop in July all the way up to the V2 open source launch in November. So everyone should have a marker. Everyone should have some sticky notes. We're going to take 30 minutes here. And we're gonna start filling in the timeline. As you guys come up with sticky notes, just kind of come up, put them up here in the time frame that they happened in, and then we'll review them at the end. So start with 15 minutes, and we'll go now. And if you're remote, please DM me anything you guys want added onto the timeline.
We didn't export anything from Commonize, did we? We should have done.
Do you have a copy of this stuff?
We just kill it today.
Yeah.
Just making sure you guys know, we canceled the Commonize subscription, but the data is still in Commonize and it's, the instance is up until the 23rd of December. So we can log in and pull Commonize data if that's useful. Also, hi, Matt. I love you.
All the kids from T2 were in.
Yeah. Great.
Well, that's good then.
Do we have like an official text channel for this, or is it just DM Matt? Because
DM me.
it's the best.
On in, baby.
And give me the date if you're gonna DM me, date in the event. And Kevin, you have a calendar. Look at your calendar, my friend.
It was all the ShapeShift email, though, I think. And
Go look at your
I've
actual
lost-
calendar. Show you your events.
I'll try.
Decided go.
We're dropping the July 14th.
From the time we decided we needed to build Web V2. Yeah. That's basically, we needed to replace Beta Dot with V2. That's what we're talking, that's the start. So when did we change to GitHub issues? That was like right then on August 1st,
It was
right?
maybe a week or so in. That was early August because I was back from Mexico.
Okay. Ooh, you're being back from Mexico. That's a good, I think we're gonna use
We're gonna do that.
marker a lot. Why don't you make us sticky for that?
Start after the Mexico.
How long were you stuck in
Very
Mexico?
funny.
The whole band, when was that bachelor party in Mexico?
It was the very end of July and we got back in early August.
Yeah, so that's perfect.
So how long were you stuck out of the country altogether?
3.5 weeks.
He was stuck in France, couldn't come back to the US. He had to do 2 weeks time somewhere in Mexico was one of the options. We all have to be doing that at the same time.
Yeah, it's great.
So it was right about the time you guys got back from that party week that we switched to GitHub issues, right?
Think of it as a spiritual retreat.
I do not think of it as a spiritual, but I wasn't there. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Depending on what you guess.
It was a retreat.
Islander did epic backflips.
That was epic.
I am really sure that I missed that.
Was it? Was the same day as the airdrop started?
It was all.
Was that all things to that?
Now they got South Park money.
Okay,
The grand opening is gonna be in about. Reason shit.
Any of you guys watch the post special?
Oh, yeah, that was funny. That was really good.
Yeah. Oh, I'm 30 years older.
We're in the future and we all eat crickets.
It's pretty good.
anyone know
That's a good one.
open source kickoff call?
Not gonna make it, Chris. Maybe
You
you
remember?
dogs.
I do, I do.
Boy, I don't have my sheet. Oh, I don't have my sheet to calendar anymore, so I don't know the dates exactly.
When was the retreat? The end of August?
Yeah, we got that one up there.
Oh,
Walk retreat.
What retreat?
V2
Oh,
song.
the company retreat.
Oh, yeah.
The only retreat point.
Yeah. The Beaver Creek retreat.
Do we have that up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have the V.
Oh, and so the
Yeah, there, yeah.
the open source kickoff was the week after Beaver Creek. We did
That
not,
was like the end of August. I mean,
yeah.
Kevin saying the repo was live August 30th. Which I got the sticky for that because Kevin's remote.
You mean
Would have been like early November, right?
Unchained open source repo.
I can look at Discord chat to we can figure that out.
You got the August 1st date already? For that?
For which?
V2 code base is the event on the calendar. Use of the new V2 architecture, walk through layers, system, walk through standards.
No, you
Space it.
Can you
Okay, got it.
Right today on a sticky note.
Attended retro.
Yeah.
It was in October that the original like back and forth happened with engineering.
Yeah, we room for early.
But the DM that was, a lot of that was in was a group DM.
Ryan's not man enough to come to the track with us this weekend.
That's fine.
On the way here, I was getting gas and some guy next to me decided it would be cool to say, you know, usually see old people on those crotch rockets. I was like, who are you calling old, buddy? And the guy was about 65.
It's funny because most of the people I ride with are like 30s, 40s, 50s.
Josh, we want to call the LT announcement like, sorry, 18th October, like late sort of thing,
Yeah,
just late October.
and mid-October, I think was, so remember there was the first bounty and then we said no.
Yeah.
And then. And then the second one was offered like a week later, and it was all set by the end of October, of like the last week in October.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks later. It was actually like, no, it was even set like in the middle of October, because the first date was gonna be the first date that was proposed was the end of October. It was, yeah, the 31st.
It was about 3 weeks from like accepting it to like the delivery date.
Yeah.
So it had to be like late October.
I'm gonna see if I can find something.
There's some chains that are already trying to integrate that are like external bots into IOTA maybe.
Yeah. Perpetual protocols trying to do one. They have one through their DAO, so it's been approved. So they're willing to bounty.
Yeah, we got the IOTA guys yesterday.
Oh, really? I looked at it, it's alert.
Yeah.
Page 1.0, they got it.
They got this like two kind of things. Huge chain contract. I think they wanted like have a said change as part of like pushing forward on different stuff. And just having platforms that.
I'm not clear of IOTA at all. So be on a smart contract platform or?
No, like it's like Cardano where it's a UTXO chain and maybe not like Cardano.
No, it-
L1 to UTXO.
It's totally novel. It's a tangle, so it's not even technically a blockchain. So to submit a transaction, you technically mine transaction.
Okay.
So it's just a way to scale without organizing a block.
Is it the DAG model?
Yeah,
Where
well,
your transaction confirms previous transactions? that stuff.
They have a lot of people saying it's decentralized, but there's actually like a coordinator at the center of it, which is one server with one person and one dude. And that thing went offline for like a day. That's sort of when I stopped following it, was after that happened.
James was fully
October
decentralized.
19th, is when Eric offered the second bounty.
You know, working on it or whatever, but.
Where do you have that?
Bottom one, the blue one, right where your left hand is.
Yeah.
I've
One
got
day
one
I got
here.
to restart the server and it was down for a day and a half.
It's like the Simpsons when he's got.
So the first bounty was before that.
Exactly. All the ShapeShift used to run off that. It was a hourly cron that would restart all the stuff.
Wait.
If the cron would stop, it's like falling over and ShapeShift, then we'd have to go and take everything.
You actually had a contract that rebooted all the servers?
We did for almost 2 years, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What time is it? This was pre-Kubernetes.
It was that would be free.
Well,
ECS and everything.
No, it was ECS. So technically, Kubernetes is kind of the same thing, just that it's more automated because a lot of our containers run out of memory and die all the time. If you just look at the average pods, they tend to die, but that's just sort of web development now.
Oh, so you had a big old hammer smash all the pods and now we're like, oh, only kill the pod.
Well, yeah, it was node processes. That
Okay, 10.8 was the discussion when we had, it was Eric and the whole work stream, like in the same call to talk about the bounty. I finally found that.
Oh yeah,
They
it was
just-
October
yeah.
8th was the first one.
If someone already isn't, probably a good idea to look at the dates for like the Olympus DAO, ball launching, Fox One stuff. So, yeah, more feature.
I'm starting in boardroom to get all proposal dates, so launches, etc.
Oh, you're the best.
Oh, it's the same day that we had BTC WebSocket support. That's exciting.
And now Kevin,
What happened to my marker?
damn it, Kevin.
Sorry,
I
Matt.
misplaced. Someone borrowed my marker.
Here's an extra one, but it's not.
Without permission.
Oh, sure.
It's not my one. Well.
Thank you.
Diggy. Hey.
You're pretty angry. Yeah.
See this one.
All right, well, here we go. 5 minutes left. We can always go longer. Yeah, some stickies, start getting them up there. Kevin, I've gotten all yours, so they're all represented up there.
Cool. Thanks, dude. That's all I remember.
Awesome as the ocean. Well,
They're doing events.
Adam, when did you officially like switch over to like Unchained specific more so than more general? Do you remember?
was recent, like.
Was recent.
2 to 3
I think it was when I got back from my trip to Mexico.
Throw that up there.
November 7th. When did we create code owners on the 2 repos and all PRs had to be approved by a code owner?
It was pretty recent as well, maybe around the same time we got back.
No, it was like, that was back in at least October. It's been around for
So
a
we
while.
did something,
That was before the bounty.
we did something more recently than to
Yeah.
tighten it.
I see the most recent update to code owner is 1020.
Yep.
September 2nd
Oh.
was when we first added code owners.
Yeah, there's like an initial representation and then an update.
Wired. Well, that sounds about right. Yeah. More than a month
So
ago.
we had, September 2nd, we added the code owners, but it was only for Maine.
November is kind of.
And then the 20th.
On the top.
Yeah, this is the camera that I've been using so people can on Discord.
Take it, we have the end of October escape marked up there.
Yeah, we have a lot of, end of October. we have here.
That's because we were just focused.
I lost it.
Yeah, there's actually quite a There's a few, I think there's a few champagne bottles too.
There's some Bud Lights in there.
Those never go fast. Well, they're up, they're at.
Never go good.
That is good, that's me. That is
All right, we're getting down to the last 2 minutes. Anyone remote, please send me anything you have remaining, or if you have more stickies, let's get them up there.
When did we go live with staking V2? That was in October 13th or something, right?
We had airdrop V2 launch 10/14.
Yeah, that's it.
And staking came those separate days afterwards. We did,
Oh,
we
oh.
did the gap again.
LP, yeah.
Kevin, we have all wave 2 covered. So I don't think we need one just for Parker, but I appreciate your love for him.
We do need one just for Parker.
Our hot party's here.
Of course, it's the Aussie.
You can have champagne, mate.
Oh, and Willie. And good.
Troy, where'd you get that?
Like each other. With no phone.
Oh, shit.
There's paper towels right there.
That the phobias are real.
Yeah, I don't think people ever changed it. Taste it all.
Blockers. They're always wearing black. Oh, I got like I too. They're just but like
You don't know who look at the one, it's like.
totally fine. It's just at the end of the day, it's like they don't wear it. It's like I'll they're gonna screen all day long. I'll get like one key guy.
I've seen more with you.
Not so bad, but like if I'm just writing. Everything from the same thing. But the flash, which is starts with like late in the day. Yeah. Like this right there starts down so low. I can only see the screen section and I look at.
Great. Anybody need any more time? We're at the 15-minute mark. I think we're. All right. We'll go review the timeline. If it's one of your cards and you want to give a little any extra context, feel free. There may not need to be context given. Chris, you probably blocking the camera for people.
You're welcome.
Yeah, go Chris. So starting in July, even before we did the airdrop Max Fox launch, liquidity providing on mobile was done, which was really exciting. We started testing the shit out of that. We did the Max Fox launch and the airdrop July 14th. That was the big kickoff. 2 days later, we launched LP staking version 1 Fox yield farming. Really got everything going. 2 weeks after that, on July 27th, the first proposal passes governance. Anyone remembers what it was?
Creation of NFTs.
No, it's so thank you, Luna Hawk, if you're listening in for being the first one. The CMOD proposal passed August 2nd. It was really good. Those guys came in and kicked ass. There was early August, there was a bachelor party in Mexico. I'm not sure why we're calling that out, but we are.
It was a monumental.
That involves probably half the people in this room.
No, Sean Luther's not here. It was for him. He never came back.
And Jake, it was for Sean and Jake, he's also not here.
Changed to GitHub issues. We left Common Eyes, went over to GitHub. Product cried a little bit, but that's okay. Mid-August, osmosis proposal passed August 1st. Yeah, that became before the CBOD one. We have the globalization work stream proposal passes August 25th. And that gave us some fun community members. We funded engineering work stream proposal. Josh took the lead on that, and that started 8/27. So you're doing it for almost your full term now. We had just before the wave date, we Unchained open source repo went live on August 30th. We also had the open source kickoff around that time. HD wallet.
Well, I think it's important to point out that before, like that open source contributions, like in mid-August, basically the whole beginning of August, we were really working full time, lots of people in the open source repos, right? That web. When did we make Unchained open? When did we?
That date was when I created the repo, but yeah, that month before was like reworking the config and infrastructure to work for the move to open source.
Okay, so the repo went live on August 30th, but there was for the full month of August, there was a whole bunch of work going on in a new repo for the new.
It was
Unchained. I mean,
it was all being done in the old private repo actually, and then we just cut over.
We just changed the old private repo.
Yeah, because we had secrets and all sorts of stuff that needed to get reworked and stripped out in various ways before open sourcing it.
And what about the Unchained stuff that's running over in containers? Like, what's the repo that has all that code? Because that's
It
totally different, right?
doesn't really exist anymore. It's kind of frozen in time, so don't break it.
Okay, but so the point there is like that. I just want us all to remember that month of August was big time, like working in all of the repos that would be the new open source repos.
We also had the ShapeShift cluster project launch on August 30th. Then we got to the last day of the month, so that was also Happy Times first engineering demos we did for the community. That was also the first wave date, which was mainly marketing. I think, was there anyone on support in the first wave?
No one in engineering.
Marketing, legal, compliance, but no one in engineering. So was it?
Where's that? Wasn't Bethany was part of
Oh, yeah,
that?
Bethany.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're past the first wave. We have the open source kickoff on September 1st. A day later, the product workstream proposal passes. And that was a joint effort between, I think, Willie and Lila, Chow, people listening. We had the staking V2 discussion on September 8th. This was starting to talk about, hey, the Fox Hill farming is going to end sometime in October. Let's not have all the liquidity on Uniswap go away.
Right.
So let's talk about it.
What I remember about that is that we were starting to get focused on more of Web V2, so that because we knew that the kickoff was not going to make it so it could be live, we were starting to talk about it, and then it was like, oh shit, liquidity mining is going to end. We've got to do a whole bunch of work.
20 days. We went to big planning on that. Same time, day later, the operations workstream proposal passes, which Tyler is the lead of. Gave a nice wave for people listening in. Mid-September started Unchained BTC integration. That was led by Kevin and a few others, right? Sterling?
Kevin?
Yeah, Sterling started it with like Nick and stuff, and then I came in with WebSocket support way later on because we kind of forgot about that piece for a bit.
September 16th was the Unchained architecture discussion. September 22nd was the wallet architecture discussion. Kicked off urine planning September 27th.
Can I interrupt again?
Please.
What was, because the other thing that I really remember about this was, you know, around staking V2, and we were talking about doing it in mobile, and some people were saying, oh my God, this is going to be a ton of work in mobile. It's almost like it's not worth doing. And then Adam and Chris were like, wait a minute, well, this shouldn't be that hard. And then there was a series of design. This is the first project, at least in recent memory, well, the first project in Web V2 where we really like sat down and did a whole bunch of designs before we started. And that's what, and Chris was
leading those,
and it wound up to the whole
Peter,
refactor of
and
GraphQL.
Feldman, right?
Yeah.
And we sat down and decided that we looked at GraphQL and we drew out the schema and everything, and we talked through everything and spent like what 4 or 5, 6 hours kind of planning, and then you guys kind of went to town on that one.
Yep, we had 2 weeks and we needed V2 staking was the requirement. And looking through it, we saw 2 weeks and we figured we could rewrite the whole stack and get it in a much better spot.
Yeah.
And include the V2 staking with it.
So that happened when? In September, right?
It did. That meeting was in September. Well, I don't know. That was like the V2, wasn't that
That might be.
October 18th when we delivered it? So that was like 2 weeks before we delivered.
So that meeting on September 8th might have been one of the ones that we.
And that might have been where we just
I think
talked
that
about
was
it, and didn't
initial.
think of doing anything.
Oh, yeah, we just had an ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, we had Matt.
Because we were doing a lot of resource planning, because we knew we had to do the liquidity
Yeah.
V2 stuff, plus we wanted to kick off the V2 version of the platform, so it was who can go work on what and try to get both things done.
Yeah, the main thing that for me that I just want to make sure is that those design discussions that happened were like super helpful, and we wound up taking a different route that wound up making things way better.
Yeah.
And set it up so that we can add more.
And set
it-
yeah,
That was the initial pushback, was just to like hard code a second.
right.
Our options were extend a mess or rewrite the whole thing, and we think it would have taken the same amount of time to do both.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, year-end planning, this was all planning essentially in September. Year-end planning after that, MetaMask and HD wallet discussion, so we tried to bump that up. Unchained work start for multi-WebSocket client strategy was at the very end of September. And
Online website. Okay.
yeah, that was one of Kevin's stickies. So started getting more DAO stuff coming in October. Chow Lila started taking over as the interim product workstream leader. Eric proposed the first bounty on October 6th. And then there was a meeting with Eric, John, and engineering 2 days later on October 8th, where they were proposing the bounty for getting the V2 version of the web platform out live to end users. It was going to have Yearn in there as well, ETH, BTC support, and am I missing
And
anything?
it had to have MetaMask
MetaMask.
If I remember,
and 0x.
this was the meeting where we kind of said, need to go and figure out how long each of these things is gonna take.
It was,
And we had a bunch, then we had a couple groups of people, right? And they went back.
yes.
We had the wallet stuff and we were like,
Yeah.
okay, this is how many days it's gonna take to do the wallet. So I remember that.
Yeah.
This Eric somebody came back
That was-
later and said, yeah, we don't have.
Basically, Eric said, hey, can you do all this stuff by the end of October? I'll give you a bounty of this. We said no, explained to him that it's not worth the long-term costs of cutting all the architectural corners that would need to be cut. He said, hey, can you just come back to me with what is a uncomfortable but attainable date?
And was that the 10-8 meeting or was that?
The 10-8 meeting. So we then took over a week, and I was like, just kind of doing a little back and forth with Eric, but it was some people, we still weren't getting the design discussions that we needed, so we couldn't come up with this date. And he ultimately, a week later, came back when I said it in here, that whenever he came back with the V2, with the second proposal, he came back and said, hey, how about if you get all this stuff? Oh, no, that's right. We went back and said, we can have it by that date, but it's just gonna be dev done. It's not gonna be prod ready. He said, prod ready is essentially not dev done, not prod ready is useless to me. How about how about if I make it, add another 3 weeks and we triple the bounty?
Cool, so that all went happening there. Also in that time frame, wallet V2 prototyping was happening. Product roadmap voted on through the end of the year. That was really exciting and got approved. Also on October 16th, launch of One Fox. That was really good partnerships as we continue to have good partnerships. 2 days before that, we did the airdrop to the, what do we call that airdrop? Airdrop, there we go. We did the fair drop, and we also kicked off the V2 Fox Yield Farming launch. October 18th, there is a liquidity providing rewrite. That was also the official launch of the staking part.
I put those at the delivery dates. We already talked about them.
Cool. There was also Unchained ETH Robston support at that time. October 19th and 2nd.
The second.
October 19th, second bounty.
Second bounty announcement. So this was when you were talking about earlier, Josh.
Yeah,
that.
but then I found the exact date was October 19th.
End of October, we had the Unchained monitoring and infrastructure efforts started or was going on. And then the October 31st wave date, which was the bigger wave, basically had every remaining department, all of basically product, half of engineering, and most other departments as well. So we're down now to the skeleton crew going into October.
I'm just adding that the significant thing about this October 19th date is that was when we agreed with Eric that 11/18 would be the launch date.
Cool. November 1st, the official end of the Fox rewards. We actually announced that middle of August. This was everything that had to do with rainfall, Fox back, all that fun utility. We ended it and said we need to figure out how to move it into a DeFi, decentralized way, because it was all run centralized ledger. Bethany took over, or Diggy took over as the product workstream leader officially on November 1st, from Chow as well. Urine and mobile, November 1st. Urine was done in mobile by then?
Yearn in mobile.
And who did the urine?
I did that. I did not know the date. It might have even been sooner.
Yearn is in the mobile app?
No, Yearn is in me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your?
What's yearn in mobile mean?
Take that beer away from him.
He yearns for urine.
Unless you're in mobile, then get more beer.
Well, while he's looking up that, also beginning of November, Noah Fox McCloud started full-time in product. Hooray! On November 11th, Adam dedicated to Unchained. So we'll take Adam, you're on Unchained all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Nice. November 9th, launches soft announce, so saying.
That's when we said that, hey, we think we're gonna be able to get the 18th, but it's gonna be a soft launch. Don't wave the banners and tweet the tweets.
Cool. We also had Bitcoin WebSocket support in V2 around that time. November 18th, V2 soft launch, Yearn and Web, and 18th, December 18th.
Yeah.
Is that the new date?
That's.
Okay. And then we have the last one, November 27th, creative services under product, is that?
That's just.
Oh, the proposal was passed?
Cool. So pretty good timeline here. You can kind of see the themes. Second, we got past Max Fox launch. We moved completely into open source discussions for everything. Two big reasons: we were coming to the end of wave one, and we wanted to start getting people outside of ShapeShift to be able to work with this as quickly as possible. Plus, we just had to do it going forward. This also got the discussions going of the new Web V2 platform, as I think Peter so they put it. The decision was put everything in the old stuff, but taking the same time as doing the new stuff. That would have been better. So that was the onus on that. And then you can see architecture discussions about everything related to that. Coming the end of October, some people with deep pockets got a little antsy and decided to start creating bounties to try to get momentum around this time. And we did have good momentum here because we started launching a lot of partnerships. ShapeShiftDAO, Fox One around that time as well, which got people really excited. We also did the extending of the Fox yield farming at that time. A couple other things people forget about. We had the sushi liquidity pools. We started getting on a bunch of L2 stuff for Fox.
Polygon.
Yeah, and XDAI on Honey Swaps. Really, really exciting. Extended Fox yield farming, and then it was off to the races of getting the new open source Web V2 out by the bounty date, which was November 18th. And that was decided on between engineering and Eric, and some back and forth negotiations, which both sides did some give and take and got to a good end spot.
One of the things that I noticed from this is that, and just looking back on it, is that from Max Fox all the way until either the beginning or middle of September, engineering we were totally in I don't want to say a little bubble, but we were just building the open source repo. Like there was no designs from product. Really, it was we were very kind of separated all, it's the way it kind of felt. And then when September came around and we realized the liquidity mining is gonna end and we need more interfaces for that. I think we started to come back together with the product team. And it was kind of like also, it all happened right around that Maxbox launch when we were gonna decentralize. And it's almost like the whole company's kind of got spread around and we didn't really start coming back together until September. And then we got that out and then the bounty came out and I feel like we're getting back into the rhythm with product again, where it was like, it was gone.
I
for a
agree.
while.
I noticed that as well in that September, October timeline, or August, September. It was like, oh, we're kind of on our own.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of like naturally came back together.
It's like a long-term marriage. It gets strained. Then you come back together.
And the other thing too that happened, I think at the same time as coming back together with product is the community got more happy, right? Or just the whole DAO community. And I think that kind of created some more energy and excitement around everything too.
100%.
Simultaneously throughout all that, we kind of both work streams, both departments were focused on going the transition, right? That was like top building all of this. Everyone was so focused on, okay,
Yeah.
we have to actually get ready to go, our job ends in
Yeah.
3 weeks, 1 month, whatever, the countdown's coming. We had to get the whole work stream ready to go, figure out how to get everybody paid. So I think that also could have contributed to why people were kind of just in their own silos. And then now we're getting back together, we have a solid foundation. The community is super strong, and now we can always rock.
All the work streams were voted in, there were budgets allocated, in September, none of that existed.
We were learning how to embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
It's less chaotic though now,
It is.
especially after your guys' weight date hit, it's starting to feel better, because there was some of us that were full now and some of us weren't, and that was really difficult. I think it's one of the reasons Chapel kind of stepped out, because it was really stressful to be have put in both places. Now that we're all pulled out, definitely made better.
Cool.
And you know what else?
Speak for yourself, no?
As we're thinking about this, the other like matching theme or matching pattern as we talk about this like separation and then coming back together. I think that same thing happened just within the engineering work, right? Throughout August and then particularly in September, we started doing work without going through our design meetings in the beginning and coming up with agreement and then breaking down work. We just like work just like started happening and people picked it up and they were taking initiative, which was great, but there wasn't cohesion. So we realized that particularly somewhere in the beginning of November, we're like, wow, we kind of built things and we're not all building. 0x was not built with the same kind of architecture pattern stuff as we did the urine integration, as we did different pieces. So as went the whole DAO, so went engineering.
The thing for me was like after the first engineering demo, so the end of August and between until after the Fox Farm V2, like the Groovy V2, we lost like half the engineers to that stuff.
Yeah.
Like mobile, Fox Farm,
Yeah.
everything else. Like, and then open source during that time was like web V2 was just suffering.
Yeah.
I think we like left Ryan all on his own, or I was in touch.
Cool. We're starting.
We're starting to
We're
get
starting a little bit in the next one. So we're gonna do, it's 2:44 Denver time, Mountain Time. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 2:54, 2:55. And next exercise is what went well, what didn't go well, the miscellaneous. And then people listening in, you can send me stuff again. So see y'all back here in 10 minutes after a bio break or whatever we need to do. Probably most of us sitting here drinking these beers. We're gonna wait 5 more minutes. Some people want to get some coffee. So we'll do it at 3 o'clock. We'll come back out.
And then if you're like,
Hey, On back here.
Cause I didn't do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we still have some people out getting coffee, but in the interest of time, we're gonna start without them. Who knows what they're doing out there? Scallywags. So the next part of the retro, we already went over the timeline, give us a refresher of what happened. So we want to start doing what went well from the draw Box launch all the way through the V2 open source launch. What didn't go well, and then anything miscellaneous if it didn't fall into either category that you want to point it out. If you're in person, you have sticky notes in front of you. As you're writing them, go put them up there. I'll group them afterwards and then we can discuss. It will take another 15, 20 minutes to do that. Before, if you're remote, feel free to DM me stuff. Just tell me what category it should be in and I'll add it in there. So I'll start the clock now. Start with 15 minutes to start off.
What was the last category again, Matt? Improvements?
Miscellaneous potpourri, if you want to call
Oh,
it that.
miscellaneous. Okay.
Things Kevin did wrong.
Yeah.
There we go.
Blame Kevin category.
Yeah, get them all out. Get all the pens.
Well, if you assume that the universe only changes and there's no such thing as past and present, and it's only the current state of things, then technically every moment is the best moment ever because it's the only moment we live. Existing. Yeah. And I do have a liberal arts. Why is that? Why do people laugh? It wasn't a joke. Come up with this deep philosophical stuff.
Mine's marine biology.
International relations.
I need more context.
It depends on what country you're in. It's like you're gonna need an answer from both of them.
What is it? Golf balls in the game.
Seinfeld.
No, Kramer was hitting the golf balls. And George had been pretending to be a marine biologist. I pulled the obstruction from the giant fish.
What's your handle? We just put him with.
I think it's Matt Sullivan right now.
That's solo, yeah.
Soloing. Who's asking? I can put in the. Just tell him, I just posted in the general, the Genesis Fox channel, so you can just do the copy paste thing there.
I can't spell the word architecture.
Even with your little degree.
First of all, it's a Bachelor of Arts. No science involved.
That is a weird combo. Like, pull it out.
Well, I mean, I had
I just
a year
pinged Sean.
and a half. Arts and sciences.
Yeah, LAS was the school, something like arts and sciences. So there's some magazine, School of Arts and Crafts. So you have a semester broader.
I actually lost out on some of it because I said we had it until the end of some day, like a Friday, whatever the day was. And I went to submit my receipt at like 6 p.m. and they had already like canceled everything. And I was like, Niche, what's going on? And she was like, oh, I'll look into it. And she. Where's my post-it?
Yeah. Office supplies, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I didn't. I want to see it. Down it. A couple of weeks ago. You know, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yesterday's not as good as today.
What color are you?
It was like peach or something.
Peach on peach on peach.
I wanna make sure they can't read it.
Or
My handwriting probably suffices for that.
Prank calls and early down calls, that's a good.
Oh, yeah, wasn't there the, yeah.
That was an.
Yeah.
So
It's done pretty well.
someone did some screen sharing during one of our presentations.
There's a lot of around.
That broke my brain. Like, just complete blank, like what is happening.
Elements are like, what, that's not me.
At first I was like, wait, are you sharing the wrong monitor?
Frantically hunting is trying to censor people, but it's so much
Or something?
like, wait.
Tool assisted, tool assisted porn dump.
Damn, Kevin, you wrote me a book.
Love you, Matt.
See how long I got? Yeah, like 5 word max.
You could summarize them.
Josh, I'm
I'm
gonna
bad at that.
DM you on the slide. You want to look at the bad, and I'll do the good.
Oh, I get
I'll make you guys do the hard work of summarizing.
Yeah.
Hi, Josh.
I'm like right there.
Josh.
Why do you think?
Guys, I remember you got hold of the chair for a photograph.
That's his chair. He's supposed to be sitting over here.
Was there?
All right, so lost most of the engineers. Does that go in the well or the?
That's a matter of opinion.
I know that's a- Only the stout of heart state.
Jam, Feldman, Still, Jay,
Mills,
Neil,
Parker.
Parker. I don't think.
Um,
Yeah, what are you doing?
If you just have enough voting power to like vote the door open or something like.
More original shape.
But I can
Yeah, and just the public DAO meeting anyway. Like, you could have joined in the Discord.
I told anybody that wanted, they could DM me and I would have given them the address. I just didn't want to post it on Discord.
The question is, why does he want to be? Instead of out shooting guns, or taking a nap.
You think he can't take a nap or shoot guns here?
That's true, there's multiple couches. over there.
I haven't been high, but it's not shoot guns here.
Multiple times.
In the kitchen?
Yeah, much rather do that.
Probably not every month, though.
Yeah,
All
the
down,
community call,
all-
we'll replace the community call like once every 4 weeks. I think that'll be more than during the school groups, something like that. It's kind of an all hands, but now we have like an all hands every day, so.
Well, they're only all hands that all the hands go.
But they were not fun. Everyone here. Around the kitchen, very like. Like scary.
Sean Luther, the time frame is from the airdrop all the way through the V2 open source web platform launched.
Every single person.
Oh, we're going to our name tags and our addresses.
Social security number, private key.
right now.
Yeah, now,
Pretty much full doc thing on Discord.
yeah, so whenever you're in a public channel, you have to use that.
And the best part is whenever someone messes up, they say, "Oh, sorry, I meant to say." Not. Of course, you can say no as much as you want. It's like the no. I mean, it's like and you just like go even worse.
Hey, you know what you do? People can kind of come up and just read some of these yourselves. You just come see what other people, Matt's gonna review it, but if you wanna just come up and, there's a lot up here.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that last For a while I did. For a while I thought you didn't make it.
I didn't know.
Big mess.
Yeah, well, they still get emails and Jen is text, lucky they.
Matt, where is your delineation here?
There's
I drew the line.
next year's taxes.
Oh, God.
Small thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
I wrote it.
Your taxes, oh.
It'll go well.
Oh, you got more? I thought we were done.
I'm hoping technology is catches up. There are some where you can just like put in your public keys. Or you can
Costa goes. Costa goes maybe killing some.
I
Is what I'm using this year in the open source.
So the poop out of shower. That's left there.
We've been feeling that one for years.
But see, there's some things like if you get paid in Fox, your cost basis is zero, but then you have to pay fees.
For now, I'm in the level
for it,
well.
for that.
And you can light off there. Yeah.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So you can't just look at like, oh, I got a Fox in here, because the Fox has to go to here and then to here and then come as USD here. So you have to like trace transactions across different chains and then through.
So we're at the 15-minute mark. Do we need more time or do you think we're good? What do you guys think? Do we need more time or are we good? Cool.
So you link them all for like configuration.
Yeah. It's your Coinbase. That's not bad. So you like put in your fees, and it goes out and then it does all the cost basis and all that stuff on it. And then it'll come back and say, you have 83 events that you need to describe, and that's usually your income.
And then you have to go in.
Then you have to go in and.
Does it, so it'll track
Certain
fees,
basis.
like if you got it at a certain amount, it'll track like you had to pay all these fees.
Okay, we're starting here.
Cool. So do the review right now. If anyone wants to ask contact us and going through these, please do. Usually it's in the what went wrong section is usually where more context is given. Like this. So we'll start the celebrations of what went well. So everything kind of clusters these together. Max Fox launch, airdrop, DAO announcement well received, DAOing it. So that whole transition into the DAO seems to be going pretty well, even though the talk about it what didn't go well. There were some road bumps, but everyone's really excited about that. We got a big cluster going on up here. Anybody have anything else they want to add in?
I'm just impressed with like the amount of people coming in from the community and like participating. None of us have ever done it before, so I was like blown away by that.
It's really cool. Going a little further out to the next big thing, made the bounty deadline. The whole grouping around the bounty, hit the bounty date, delivered it. A lot of talk about the team collaboration, getting things in a photo finish, more granular things, saying no to the bounty first instead of just taking it. That was good. Bounty requirements, they were filled in very last minute, but there was requirements. There was one from Sean that thought the bounty was reasonable. It wasn't scope too much, it wasn't scope too little. It was the Goldilocks of bounties. Teamwork through bounty, good PR and engagement interviews through the bounties to get it over the line. So it seems like once we committed to the bounty, everyone was really excited about it. Good team collaboration and like usual delivered very last minute in ShapeShift fashion.
Well, I put on that we as a team decided to do the bounty together. It wasn't a top-down thing. It was a team decision. And I think that was a big key to us.
Yeah, in the past, it had it top down.
Yeah. It was very DAO.
Just to kind of continue on that, V2 is pretty dang slick. well architected, built to scale. So even what you guys delivered, some kudos up here, what you did, that's good basis going forward. For everything else that wants to be done. Some more side things on just general coming together from July, August to November after each kind of wave. That's nice to see. Miscellaneous one, mobile responsiveness, props to Beard for that, if you're listening in. There's a GM up here.
GMs.
Demos and office hours, seems like those are going well, especially for engineering going forward. Many engineers continued in the DAO. That's nice to see. Lots of planning in September. We have a grouping on this one, engineering, leadership and planning and rewrite of LP staking V2, design meetings for liquidity V2 and mobile. So you'll actually see as we have that transition, we talked about the timeline. It didn't go well. There's a new period. We weren't really good at that, but in September, for those things, we did really well. Community engagement and various partnerships and putting them together. Not only do we build a community of users, engage people, but a community with partnerships as well. There's just seems like new partnerships being announced every day. MetaMask support finally, hooray. Agile governance process, which is really good, really robust governance process. Open source velocity increase. Curious on the context of that. We looked at numbers and what is this? Is just like a feels thing.
That was one of the first things I feel like a lot.
We have that too, so.
Hired is this Ocean?
Ocean.
Yeah, over here.
I don't even know if I spelled it right.
What's up?
V2 is 1 week in production. Probably a little bit more now if they launch it every time. Wave 2 was mostly seamless. That was the bigger wave data, especially that impacted engineering. Someone was excited about the first DAO payday. What that was.
I still figured out.
Cool. So that was everything that went well. Any other context or anything folks want to add?
I feel like it went faster too, to Tyler's point. Like, I mean, it's almost at parity with beta, and it was like done at like a rapid speed.
Yeah, and going back to, that was the argument engineering was making, that it takes the same amount of time to put in a V1 as to make V2 and make it better. So,
Well, we were on a call 2 weeks ago or something, and someone said something about parity, and I was like, oh, no, there's no way. Like, we put 2.5 years of work into Axiom, and then I sat back and was like, well, we're not doing rewards and all this other stuff. And then I realized that, like, oh, we actually are pretty close to parity.
took one of the pain in the ass stuff.
We
So
Really good. So keep on. You know, the teamwork. Usually in the what went well, it's always great to see teamwork and collaboration come up there. It's usually been a little nervous when it doesn't. So that was one of the main sticky points as well.
I'd say, I think I might have put it in the wrong column, but just the year integration went really well with the spec, and then also UI UX, and then also everything side with board, which is great for tickets. So
Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, I put that on it too, that because we had to respect and you have to do that. It went.
Yeah.
It went.
Cool. All right, so now to the unfun category. What didn't go well? The biggest kind of grouping had to be around planning, and this was planning for a whole bunch of stuff. So not enough designs up front, no design docs, no user flows, UX designs for the alpha version, no product specs for alpha. Was this planning ahead regarding your router contract lack of something?
Yeah, the one thing I did great with the urine integration is that we didn't really plan ahead with the need for this is the fact that their router contract was not added, the packs and bugs, didn't really factor that into the scope until too late basically. We had to launch without the affiliate revenue thing, and that was one of the. But what did go well there is that Ocean came through.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
found some bugs.
would we have Ocean here if that didn't,
Really, it was just that we could have planned better, but we did actually make a good comeback.
Yeah.
After we figured out what the situation is.
That's tough to stop and plan when you're staring at like 3 weeks, multiple.
Totally. There was just so much other stuff that we were planning for too that we mentioned of it, but we also weren't part of it. And we had talked to you, and they also did kind of make it seem. We kind of assumed that it's in production, so it's probably been on, it probably really needs a lot, probably works and doesn't have bugs and stuff like that. And we kind of figured out that was not the case.
Yeah, it's surprising that they wouldn't have that set up better. In order to help their product and protocol grow.
I mean, it's sort of the perennial problem, though. It's we trusted that a popular DeFi protocol with lots of TVL had like decent code. That's seems like an assumption that we should be able to make, but
Are we?
Cool. Kind of keep going. Same line here. Now, architecture planning designs, short-sighted architecture planning, and communication between engineering and product. All work streams they were formally during this time. And that's really it for the big stuff around planning and design. So part of with the bounty, because it was a bounty, probably top-down date. No one was expecting it. Will make things a little bit more effective than they probably need to be. And that shows what didn't go well. So that's our biggest grouping so far. Making Unchained decentralized, trying to fit a route peg into a square hole.
Which works just fine, as long as the square.
Round.
Well, sufficiently large for the round. It's literally, it's you've got a square peg and a round hole, and, well, actually.
What's the same?
It's a terrible metaphor.
Hold on.
I just had a question on the overall process, like when you guys are going through retros and you have what didn't go well, how do you guys turn that into
Sure.
what goes well the next
We're gonna do, coffee talk on a few things and then come out with action items.
Oh, awesome.
Which I will assign to people in this room, so look forward to that, everyone. Prank calls and the early DAO calls.
What?
Who did that?
Yeah.
People with insurance and inappropriate materials.
And gift flow, gift flow. DAO test funds logistics, got harder probably after wave 2 or so. DAO time management regarding meetings. I think there's a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Engineering resource allocation. Is that specifically for the bounty or is that more like a general thing?
That was across like from Macbox through to now. Related to the one below.
Yeah, not enough chains, not enough devs on Unchained. We moved a lot of people. It was Kevin solo for a while. Nick's jumped in there, Highlanders jumped in there, a whole bunch of other people.
Markers jumped in there.
Exactly. About 4% airdrop claim rate. I think we asked a lot of people at a time. We were hoping probably between like 15 and 20 would have been nice. 4% was a little disappointing. Really not too much more to add on that. We tried to market the shit out of it and keep marketing it, but just got tons of claims.
First review is pretty stacked because of it.
Yeah, that's the flip side.
Yeah, there's a silver lining.
Despite intentions for V2, we got tech debt, taking second bounty and incurring tech debt. From what I hear, we're doing a lot of refactoring right now, post-launch, just because we try to update. But that's good. Next biggest kind of grouping we have related to the wave 2, losing engineers, losing PMs, losing half of engineering, losing team members, loss of talent, and DAO transition. Yeah. 3-year plus nightmare, even though it was there and got us through some times, but Watchtower, we bitched about it for 2+ years, but it's finally dead, kind of dead.
So.
So-
We were finding it this morning. Which is why I think the shit pile is stinky.
Two sort of next ones related, lack of clear vision of the future, clear critical path. Anybody want to add any additional context there?
I wrote the lack of clear vision, and I think it was just like I put like in September we did a lot of planning, so I think we were moving in that direction, and then the bounty kind of came in and kind of derailed that planning towards the vision. And because we didn't have a clear vision, it was just kind of like, here's the short-term goals, cram it all in, and we kind of we focused on the trees and lost view of the forest.
And that will affect the factoring you guys are doing right now.
Yeah.
Last ones in this category, package versioning and library. Is client storage feasible? Anybody want to add any context to those two?
The client storage one was more me, where it's like it was kind of touted as this buzzword of, yeah, let's do client side storage and everything's going to move client side and all things client side, but like we never actually looked at what that would mean or what that is, and found out that there's like a 5 meg limit for client side storage, at least with the one implementation, and that was like super not feasible. And it was kind of along the planning sort of things. It's really easy to throw out ideas and stuff, but without actually following through in the planning, it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Well, that local storage thing was always a sort of temporary, interim thing. The new Vault thing should be able to support that.
This was more in like transaction history, local storage versus like wallets.
Yeah, that's really
Oh,
On
I
the
got
Unchained
we
side.
never got
Yeah.
around to planning how we.
Well, maybe we should revisit that at some point because, now that we have the capability.
Reed, keep that in mind because this could be something for action items later on. All right, big themes coming out of this, especially around the bounty. There was really no planning because the bounty came in YOLO last minute with an aggressive date. Just had it started. There wasn't design stuff. There wasn't requirements. There wasn't really fleshed out architecture at that point. It was all about go, go, go. And then you can start seeing the domino effect of that. We did launch, but there's now tech debt we have to work on instead of having to just keep moving on going forward. But we did hit the date, which was the happy stuff. And the other big theme just has to do with losing talent, losing people from the ShapeShiftDAO as waves came and people transitioned on to different things, which probably affected everything else with the lack of resources to do design and all that fun stuff. Couple of miscellaneous things in the miscellaneous category. Engineering oversight. Anyone want to talk about that one?
We did a bad job of it, now we're doing a better job of it, and like, it's kind of ebb and flow, so that could go in the middle of well or not well, but yeah.
Next year's taxes on a lot of people's minds.
That belongs in the bag.
I wrote that. I'll put it out there. I mean, I'm gonna try and start my taxes whenever I get my W-2s, but I'll put it out there if anybody else wants, to collaborate on figuring this out.
Should we have like a tax party?
We're in all one.
Like a funeral.
You just not allowed to hosting a party.
Oh, come on. Severance.
Bring the hard liquor.
Is DeFi's weekend equals balance charts. Whose was this one?
Oh, yeah, I see.
Wait.
He wrote that in.
DeFi's weekend equals balance charts.
Yes.
And we didn't miss because it could go in both columns. It went really well because we had balance charts, which may have been like not existent or much less functional than it were. But it's in a bad column because DeFi had to spend the weekend and surprise us on Monday with like, here they are, they're pretty much working. And I know from experience, those are a pain in the ass. There's a lot of.
Charts are a massive
Really
pain.
easy to goof up and it's hard to troubleshoot.
Yeah, we did the charts in mobile over Charlie taking the lead on that. That was a pain in the ass.
It's an open meeting, hang out.
I'd like to hang out.
All right, hang out with these last two cards, Sterling. Then we're gonna take a break and then you can't leave.
Okay.
So much innovation right now, new protocols, DAOs, integrations, so just getting excited for everything that's happening. And then last one, probably could have gone to what didn't go well, but more miscellaneous. Our public bounties have not panned out yet.
Yeah, all the ones we submitted, like we got people to say they would work on them and then they didn't.
So before we take the next break, I'm guessing for coffee talk, we should start with a more in-depth discussion around the lack of planning for the bounty.
Yeah.
And how Believe Pension should improve that going forward, because there will be more bounties, probably sooner than anyone thinks. Talk about some of the tech debt stuff that come out of that, probably planning, if you guys haven't already done that. Talk about what's going forward. I think you can spend some time talking about loss of talent.
And
Without,
I would like to add into that, maybe, how do we attract new talent? I mean, the loss of talent that's yesterday's news. It's what do we do about it now?
Cool. Besides those three topics, just because of those clusters. Is there anything else anyone wants to really coffee talk on? Other ones calling out, probably we already talked about the prank calls and the early DAO calls. DAO test fund logistics, not sure we need to chat about that one. Git flow.
That might be one.
Git flow is one to talk about.
Yeah.
Cool. Forgot all processing stuff, and I'll move it over here. DAO time management regarding meetings. Does that need to be discussed?
Don't go to them.
But, you know, a lot
Go to
of
meetings?
but based on the other stuff that's going on, I can't, and then I feel like I'm playing catch up on all these fancy new things people are excited about that I don't even have time to get into.
And integrate that.
I want to talk about that vision critical part
Yeah.
one and the product engineering relationship, like getting that roadmap public and like more solidified
Yeah.
sort of thing. And then that ties back to like the resource allocation, just, yeah.
And
Cool.
splitting it out into product versus engineering. Right now, it's like all one way.
Okay, we'll take another 10-minute break. When we come back, we'll do coffee talk. We'll start off with the block planning for the bounty. We'll dive in there. So it's 3:36. We'll say 3:46 to go back and get going. Hold on for final part. We're gonna do some coffee talk.
I'll hit you up when we're finished.
Yeah, for sure. I have somebody.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you guys have never done coffee talk before, this is when we do a larger discussion focusing on issues that came up in the what went well, what didn't go well. Essentially what we'll do is I'll put 10 minutes on the clock, open forum, talk about these issues. At the end of 10 minutes, I'll ask for a thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up means we want to continue to talk about it. Thumbs down means we do not need to continue to talk about it. Throughout this, we should be trying to come up with action items that we can do to fix these things that didn't go well going forward. I'll be writing them up here on the whiteboard. I'll also be sending them out later on once I write everything up. So as we're going through these, start thinking about some action items. And you could also be the owner of them because we need to assign owners to action items by the end of this. For those of you that are listening online, I recommend looking at the camera that shows the whole table instead of just my face. Probably feel more involved in the discussion. And we might want to use that mic. You want to turn the mic on?
Hey, can someone who's remote talk just so we can test the volume?
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
GM. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
All right, cool. The first thing we're going to talk about was the biggest cluster and what didn't go well. This was when it came to the bounty. And even before that, there was lack of planning. Everything from having product specs, having design docs, to having architecture and planning meetings. So whoever wants to kind of kick us off and start talking about that a little bit more, the timer starts now. And I project your voice so people can hear you.
I'll start. So go ahead. No, Adam, you start.
So I was gonna say, like, we all definitely had the best intentions, and I think we showed that clearly by flat out rejecting the first bounty. And several people expressed, like, we got our clean start, things are going well, this is fun to work in. We don't want it to go down the toilet and be a drag to work in and have tech debt just to get things done, like some weeks earlier. Then with the more like actually achievable bounty, talked through it and decided to go for it. And I don't know, if anyone's to blame, it's probably me for letting it just go and kind of going for it like we always have. I like that we talked about it already and are planning, each new feature, each iteration on things to dedicate planning time to that effort and have documentation that we can refer to more people, give us more visibility, like worldwide to people than just the tribal, we're all comfortable and friendly with each other and share information that way. But I think it definitely shows that, we saw the 15 or whatever, however many business days it was to get all those things polished enough to be shared publicly. And despite intentions, we ended up creating some tech debt.
Well, the whole process isn't as linear as it used to be in centralized ShapeShift, where it was, hey, we're gonna do this, let's UI UX, let's do it. Now we have proposals that can be coming in at any second, proposing a whole new feature that might not even be on the roadmap. We have obviously different work streams, and no work streams necessarily higher or lower than each other. And then anyone can create a bounty out of nowhere. So even if we are perfectly aligned and we have amazing communication on, XYZ feature, someone can create a bounty for ABC feature, do in a week, and if you do it, you get $100,000. Like, that's going to entice some people, absolutely. So we need a way to be able to kind of take in input from multiple people, work streams, internal from the DAO, externally from another DAO maybe, and how to prioritize to kind of get that back in that linear process.
I think one thing we need, I mentioned up here the lack of clear vision. I think if we're able to sit down and really have like a cohesive group mentality of, what the product is and where we want to see it moving, when these bounties come in, we can all evaluate them kind of from the same perspective, right? Of like, is this moving us in the direction we want to go? Is it not? Is it worth it? Right? And right now, I think without that clear vision, it's kind of hard for us to evaluate like the pros and cons of taking on some of those things. So to me, that's like a core thing I think we need to establish is kind of a very high level view of kind of what we see the product as. And I've kind of made a proposal and I've shared it with a few people of kind of like my idea of that. But I think as a whole team, as a whole DAO, we all need to kind of be unified in that vision where we're all on the same page, right?
I think you were working on something set in the EMPM powwow, kind of with the little post-its. You were kind of starting with that top level and kind of working our way down, Josh. I'm not sure if that would be useful to share.
Yeah, right.
So I identified this one might just happen to be a fly on the wall product meeting. It was all kind of like it was quite tactical and not very like aligned with what engineering was thinking. And like I agree with you fully. It's like if we don't have this down the road in lines possible to either like under engineer or over engineer things, and like where do we put our focus? Like if we're going to be some cross-chain thing, like the wallet thing has to be a big priority. This whole like the technical architecture of how we structure all that data and Unchained and everything. Like if we're not clear on where we're going, like we'll get distracted by shiny bounties and things. So it's hard to provide oversight if you don't really know or architect what you don't know if you don't know what you're building. So
I think it's also would benefit just to bring a little more engineering perspective into the vision and to have these conversations with product and engineering. Because we did have a product vision, meeting with the community. And I don't know how many of the engineers were actually there. I also know that the recording unfortunately got lost. So it's like, and we've been meaning to go back and like redo the recording because it was really good content and the community was really excited about it. And I think we do have quite a bit of vision defined. And there's definitely some like missing pieces like wallet strategy that we absolutely need to fill in. But we do have a really solid high level product vision that is articulated in a few places, including that big decentralization announcement and stuff. Like we lay out a lot of the pieces of the roadmap that we're all thinking about, the things that we need to do. But there's definitely some missing pieces, and I think it will be good to reconvene with more of engineering because I think you guys are busy when we did a lot of that product roadmap stuff with the community. But it was a really great meeting, and the community was super excited about it. Like everybody was feeling very aligned, and we, that's why when we did that proposal, it had like unanimous support from the community and was one of the top voted on proposals because the community is really excited about this roadmap and like this high level vision that we do have, on the forum even articulated.
It sounds like we should collaborate.
Yeah.
Engineering and product.
I love that idea.
Here's how we get to that awesome like end state for the product.
And maybe a step towards that is you could do that presentation again and record it at the EMPM powwow this coming Monday. We're hoping that anybody can come to that too. So the rest of engineering can come and hear you give that presentation. And then engineering can start commenting or we can start to build together. Actually, you could do that. Chris, you could show your diagram and talk about the picture you have, and we can start to see where we've got common ground or things together.
So I think what we need is we need a DAO vision. That's a high level one. And then the roadmap to me is like 1 or 2 steps below that, right? It needs to fit within the framework, but we haven't even established what the framework is. So when you talk about the roadmap, it's like, yeah, but what are the boundaries?
You're right.
Maybe you guys talked about that, but like, what are the boundaries of the roadmap, right? Where are we trying to?
Because you're totally right. And that was talked about the whole beginning of the meeting. The first half of it was all vision stuff, basically, and mission. And then we went.
So let's see that. You still have the deck for that.
I still have the deck. Yeah.
So let's just do
Really,
that
you
again.
want to be the owner of reviewing the vision with engineering that you do at the board?
Take it and
Well, can I ask you a question? Is there a way that we can capture that, or is it still down to something like when we have new contributors come in or bounty hunters come in, that we can just be like, hey, this is the 10 bullet points, like distill it down to something that's so bite-sized that they could consume it or we have it.
Totally. We do have some of this. Like if you go to even just the announcement, like in the decentralization announcement, we have these bullet points that I think are just they summarize like the high level roadmap. So, but that is more roadmap. And we also have a vision on the forum. But yes, we can make it even better, and we can absolutely like record it. I think that will be really cool because we are missing a lot of this stuff. A lot of people when they ask us about vision and stuff. It would just be so great to just provide them kind of these slides or this recorded content, or even just like some bullet points for sure.
We need to get that guy that does the super cool GIFs.
And does that
make one vision GIF?
Yes, it would be great to work with Green Machine, the new creative services work stream to actually like make something awesome.
A lot of how all ties together with the engineering like resource allocation. Like I think that when we're doing the bounty stuff, like we have little teams working on a lot of stuff, and like that worked really well, like one or two, you know, 2 or 3 engineers on a particular thing at a time. And then like the topic, Josh, that we talked about of like the serialization versus parallelization, like I think we have maybe more engineers on one feature and get it out the door and get it into prod and then move on to the next one. Like users get stuff out, you know, well, first we plan it better, it gets done to a high quality, gets in users' hands quicker, and then like move on to the next one. But again, that all ties back to the like roadmap thing of like, does this feature fit into a bigger picture?
Well, and to Adam's point about like during the bounty, we kind of, you know, I take some responsibility too, in that like I helped some teams that came and asked questions or whatever with some architectural stuff, but not other teams. And I think it's because we had so many, we had 5 teams or something like that working on different four, you know, it was hard to kind of keep up with everyone. So you know,
9 people, 4 efforts, or maybe 10 or 11.
Someone's on the Discord trying to talk.
Quick question, guys. Yeah, it's just me. Never was. So when we're talking about high level, as you know, for engineering, I want to just kind of get some of your perspective. Are we saying like high level, like modular code, open source modular code that can be adapted for, you know, multiple, if not many wallets, where we can basically, you know, bring in these proposals that are proposed within the community and basically plug and play, put them in, you know, make sure that, you know, code is very well, not very well, is documented so people can come in, follow along. It can be stood up. You know, decentralized. We're moving away from the centralization of infrastructure and stuff like that. You know, things like that. Is that the high level that you guys are thinking on? Or are you thinking more like, you know, we need to know?
But it's a higher level than that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's like mid-level to me. That's like 3 levels below. Yep. Right. That we need that, obviously, but that needs to fit within a
bigger picture. Okay. Perfect.
One thing I really want to say.
Oh, wait,
We
can just keep going.
You have to take a shot every time we come over.
So I have maybe what might be an unpopular opinion that the work stream should not be taking bounty work on at all. Period. They're already have like essentially earned an upfront bounty that covers a period of time to do work, and it should be done at the pace that gets shit done right in the future way. And I'm all for bounties, and I'm fine with people doing extra shit outside of their commitments they already have, but we shouldn't like take the work stream that's already there for a reason and to do things right and try to make them hurry with more money.
So are you saying that we shouldn't direct the entire work stream effort towards pursuing any bounty, or the individual work stream participants shouldn't be allowed to take bounties outside their normal work?
Outside the normal working hours, totally fine, in my opinion. It's just their core
So we should
task should be focused on building the right product. not
What if it was
making money
a
or
what if it was a bounty without a deadline?
Yeah, that was what I was gonna ask earlier. Is like, what about the different structurings of bounties where it's like a slower decay? Because I know the original decay is like, what was it? Every hour, or every day, it's like a 20% cut. So that's not even like a reasonable thing. It's like it's basically gone if you don't hit the deadline. So that incentivizes only hitting the deadline versus.
What if the policy was it could have no decay? Like there could be no date and no decay. It just had to be you will get X amount when X is delivered.
Shouldn't it just be like the DAO steering the work stream already without needing to incentivize it with money? I want everybody to get more money.
This discussion is moving from our original planning discussion to something that's, I think we're changing topics. That's what it sounds like to me.
Maybe, but Josh's first point was talking about bounties and how that changes the planning cycle, right? I mean, so I think yes, maybe there's multiple subtopics here, but I do think it's a very important topic.
I like the idea where like if we are gonna have a roadmap for the work streams, right? And if a bounty comes in, to your point, like maybe as work streams, we meet on it, we discuss it, and we decide, is this worth prioritizing against the roadmap that we already have? And that determines whether we take the bounty or not.
It should be a case by case basis, I think. But in general, I agree with what Adam's saying is that like core developers being paid to be core developers, and the core developers have a roadmap of things that we're working on. And presumably that's planned out to fit within the number of developers that there are. There really isn't a lot of like wiggle room. But if someone comes in and says, here's $1 million to do X, we should be able to sit around and be like, you know what, we're okay deprioritizing these things and prioritizing these steps, just like we did here with this discussion, right?
Well,
And so
my understanding of the bounties.
but we've learned
Sorry, it's hard to interject over the voice.
Yeah.
My understanding of the bounties was that the intention.
Keep talking. Go ahead, Kevin.
The intention of the bounty, as I understood it, and the core work stream taking on bounties was basically bounties would be proposed and they're open to the community. And like ideally the community is the one that takes on these bounties and external devs outside of the core work stream. But then if none of them take it, that's when we would have the opportunity to step in or help accomplish that bounty as kind of like just a backup plan to like make something happen that wasn't necessarily on the main product roadmap.
Like the bounties like perpetual protocol to add a feature or
Yeah.
like hit this
Yes.
the existing roadmap to hit.
So I think it totally depends, because we should be proposing bounties saying, hey, there's features that we think are important, but we don't have enough developers to work on it. And they're not super time sensitive. So here's, 10 grand for someone who wants to go do this for us. But then I think there's also bounties that come from outside saying, we want to integrate with ShapeShift, whatever we're offering this in order to get, involved, get I don't know, whatever it is, but there's us proposing bounties, and then there's third parties coming to us saying, we want to integrate, we're willing to pay you guys.
Okay, so so the perp, not like necessarily the Eric bounty, but the perp bounty, or do you consider those kind of one and the same?
Well, Eric was external.
And could we have had, are we ready for community members to just have come in and take on that bounty? Like, I don't think
That's the challenge. Right now, we're not ready for it.
So right now, I do think that things need to go through the work stream right now. And right now, one thing that we could consider too is like if there is a bounty that comes in from per protocol, we shouldn't just prioritize it because there's a bounty. We've already made that clear. Just because the community approves a bounty doesn't mean boom, we're going to switch directions and go build this right now. And we've expressed that to these bounty partners. But one thing that we could consider is still even just having those funds go into the DAO itself. And the DAO right now, like the contributors, like you said, Adam, are already getting paid for their full-time jobs. They're getting paid to work 9 to 5 basically. Those revenues can actually come into the DAO treasury. So like if we decide maybe we go get some grants from Thorchain to go build some stuff out, it'd be a great way to just increase the treasury's balance of Rune. And then we already have methods to pay everybody. It actually, and I think we can get to the point where we are bringing in just, we have bounties that community members can just pick up and stuff and still interact, communicate with the work stream. But I'm not sure that we're quite ready to get there yet. I don't think any of us are quite ready for
But then
that.
are we asking
5
people
minutes, thumbs up, thumbs down, do you want to keep
to-
going on it, thumbs up?
pay the
Yes.
bounty up front before the work's complete?
No, don't do that.
Well, I'm not saying, but if you want this in the treasury, then we gotta get around to it.
It would just be the traditional roadmap, just like we just built V2. We would decide to prioritize one of these bounty features on the roadmap because we believe that it should be prioritized, and there's a nice carrot to do the work.
And then you're saying just the bounty funds go to the treasury.
the DAO pays the work stream as it normally does, and then once we complete the bounty, boom, now the DAO treasury gets a big, potentially $600,000 of Osmos into treasury.
And we also have something on the topic like prioritization, because I agree with Adam that core work stream members shouldn't be working on other bounties during core business hours. And I also agree with Diggy, it comes down to a matter of, is the bounty aligned with the vision of what we're trying to build, in which case we can justify shuffling the roadmap, either, for the community or for the treasury or whatever. But in Eric's case, I think Web V2 was aligned because it gets something tangible out there as a platform to build upon. I do see a lot of these other bounties as sort of distractions from stuff. And I would be really concerned if we deviate from a vision and just shuffle roadmap because of shiny thing, that we don't get any closer to that vision and we actually get further away from it.
So we struggled a lot at ShapeShift about 20% time. And it's about the moonshots. It's about freedom for any engineer to work on anything they want. And it gets really oppressive when it's 100% time always on what you're focusing. And it's really, really hard to put any time in the side stuff when you're really focused on work. So I always really didn't like this on your own time, right? Because it's already, you can put all your work into your name work. But if we forced everybody to put 20% time in on something,
So if 1 week out of the month, everybody did 20%, and then that would be a great time to do bounties, and it's whatever they want to do. And even if it's not a bounty, they could just 20% time on whatever you think is good. And then that gets moonshots, because really moonshots are what can direct a whole company. It's taking the risk on something that sounds ridiculous now, but that could turn out to be something big.
We will have some of those at the hackathon in Denver. We'll have bounties, ShapeShift sponsored bounties available, and the ShapeShift engineers that want to do a hackathon and win money and build cool stuff that will be one way that they can do it, at least.
So one of this where we're trying to speak.
Is that Kevin?
That probably me.
Not me this time.
Hey, so I wanted to offer a couple thoughts on a couple of things here. First, I think that I'd like to challenge the picture of the workflow as being interrupted by bounties. That people should maintain focus on the vision and the roadmap. I think that is the practical output of that is correct, but I think that sort of has an implicit bias towards a centralized planning system. In our decentralized, glorious future, we should be thinking about the roadmap as essentially a giant omnibus bounty that's been offered to the engineering work stream for completion of what's on the roadmap. And as a group, if we would like to take on other things, we should weigh those other things that we take on against the commitments that we've already made, and the relative value of that versus the big full-time stuff that we get paid for. But I don't think that means that we should eschew the idea of taking bounties altogether, just because that's how the community, that's the one mechanism the community has that's truly democratizing, I guess. I've been in companies run by a product department before, and I think that having, the DAO has a lot of strengths that it isn't beholden to that system. I also think our product department is great compared to that example. So, take that with a grain of salt.
So I do agree with Reed on that one. At any time that we set short-term or medium-term or even long-term, anytime that we set a roadmap for the future, we're necessarily doing that with limited information, given the fact that our direction can be influenced by offers made externally. So I think maybe a good precedent to set is to get together between the product and the engineering teams, involve the community, and evaluate whether or not the offer being made from an external, a third party, is sufficiently compelling to modify the roadmap. And we'll do this on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at this sticky note on the end over there, right? Like so much is changing all the time in crypto, right? There's always something new going to be coming up, and we can plan out 6 months, but 4 months from now, some newfangled thing could come out, right?
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the problems we had with this bounty is the engineering team met together to discuss it.
Right.
We didn't involve product, and we certainly didn't have a community discussion about it. And I think if we're going to do this, the bounties are going to the DAO, not to the engineering work stream. And right, we need to think about it as a whole entity and not just engineering is not the DAO, right? Engineering is a part of a larger whole. And I think we made the mistake of not including the larger whole.
Should the bounty go through governance?
So
No,
it's not coming
just
from the
did it
treasury.
as
It's
an
not coming from the
individual.
Anyone can
But I
give
still
money.
feel like it should be governance.
But as a whole, even if it goes through governance, it's the fact that like the engineering work stream or a specific work stream could be a bottleneck, right? So I feel like if we're going to make this decentralized, then we should have the ability to inside of our vision to figure out how we make it to where anybody can pick up any bounty, and then the process is set up to where you don't have to focus on, because I mean, our first bounty was, we were the only ones that could do it, right? So it was like, that wasn't necessary. Even if the community could have exposure to it, it didn't mean that they could implement it or they could like work with it, as opposed to like, if you have small, groups of people that want to implement bounties, they don't have the ability to do that right now because we have all of the technical, experience. So I feel like we should, inside of our vision, how do we like do that? How do we expose all of the information that we have so that anybody can come in and really actually work on our?
So 5 minutes, 5, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I think if we take
Thumbs
that.
up. Thumbs up.
So this will be the last 5 minutes. We will spend 30 minutes on this topic. At the end of this, we're going to start focusing on action items that can come out of it. Start jotting down a few things. So, one more 5 minutes, and then we'll start.
Just a quick question. I've heard a couple of people mention that bounty should go to the DAO treasury. Has that been decided on? And if so,
No.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's what
I don't either. I don't either.
because essentially,
Higher
sorry.
level, I think Ryan made a really good point, which is right now no one can contribute. And so we have to ask ourselves, why can no one contribute? We haven't built a platform that's built in a way that allows people to easily contribute. It's very tightly integrated and all this other stuff, right? So I think the first thing we need to do is go back and be like, if we want to be able to have these bounties, we need to first build a bountyable project. Right. And so we're kind of looking down here where we need to be looking up a little bit.
I agree that there needs to be some assistance.
For a bountyable product, just like as we're beginning to approach that, here's the hurry up money, just get it done by this date.
That's definitely where we're going, and it'll be great when we can have something like that we do want to prioritize, and we can put it out there, we can put the specs out there, and then anyone can come build it and get the bounty for it. That will be really sweet, but I agree we're not there yet. That's where we're building towards.
Yeah, and actually part of that vision we discussed.
We're just gonna merge any PR that gets made. We still need to have like a.
No, that's kind of back to the what started this whole coffee talk section about like the planning that we're doing up front is that we have code owners that they need to approve the PR. So any group or person who's going to pick up any bounty or do anything will have to first submit design documents and get them reviewed by the core team. And then, and it has to align with all of the engineering strategy, the engineering vision that all comes from the DAO vision, the product vision, the engineering vision, our strategies, design docs, and code. And so we're the gatekeepers, and that's all we are providing feedback to anybody else who wants, but they just have to
And I
follow
think that's okay.
this process.
I think you can still be decentralized and be a DAO and have work streams that decide which code gets merged. Have these code have a product team that decides, no, this is not going on the roadmap because this does not align with our vision. And you know what, if you just disagree, fork us and go do it yourself.
Well, I would like to make
So we still are decentralized. We still are a governance model.
Anything that might be bountyable, the first step is, does it fit into the product vision? That's before it even goes to engineer, before engineering even looks at it, does it pass the product vision? Does it fit in? Then it can go.
And if we're doing that,
I think there's a.
I think it's okay for that money to go to the DAO treasury. If we get part of
your salary through.
Yeah, we reward box or whatever.
Discord, go ahead. Someone on Discord.
Right, so I think that maybe we need to define vision versus roadmap then, because so as I see it, certainly core devs should not receive bounties for performing their gatekeeping function. To have to pay off the reviewers to look at their code. That is logically distinct from paying
That's a way to get things done, though. We need something.
I just don't think that would align with what we're trying to build. But that is logically distinct from paying the core the engineering work stream or whatever to do implementation work on a particular thing. But let's just imagine that somebody decides they really like ShapeShift and they're frustrated with the speed we're getting stuff done, and so they decide, you know what, I'm going to stand up a parallel dev team, and in a centralized world, that would mean forking the product, but in a decentralized world, maybe somebody stands up a dev team for the primary purpose of just contributing to ShapeShiftDAO. Well, in that case, if there are things that they come and say they provide the design docs and they do the correct process, they should be able to get their code in. So in that case, it would fit within the vision but it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to put whatever they're working on in the roadmap, I would think, because like the roadmap is the plan for what we're going to do. And things get excluded from the roadmap because we don't have bandwidth. But, if we would still take implementations if somebody was nice enough to do it for us and donate it, right?
That we have things that are designated for core devs and things that we think will be good for bounties. And if someone wants to bring something in via a bounty that doesn't necessarily align, but it makes our overall product better, I think we'd all be open to that.
I see what you mean. That was on the board that didn't work out very well.
Well, we have made significant progress. I think it's important to recognize the difference between why we weren't moving on bounties before and why we're not moving on bounties now. Before, it was because we weren't allowed to, right? Because there was centralized stuff involved and only a certain set of people had the context and the knowledge and the access to the code to, get that context and knowledge to actually port stuff over or whatever to the open source universe. Now, the only thing stopping somebody from taking a bounty is the fact that, they'd have to dedicate several months of their life or whatever to spinning up on it, but that is a much better reason to not be moving on bounties, I think.
So I think one of the things I'd like see.
Oh, someone muted.
Someone muted.
Testing. Okay.
Yeah. To Reed's point too. Also, I think that what might change also is as proposals get passed through the community, through the DAO itself, they're not always going to be, like you said, immediately on the roadmap right in front of us. So as the work streams and the teams come together and decide that this is something that is a priority or whatever, the gatekeeping role may not always align with what possibly the DAO passes and proposes because they might not see the vision that is being proposed or something. So I can see scenarios where possibly something gets through the DAO and engineering might not initially support it, and therefore what happens in those instances where, like Reed is saying, then someone steps up from the community or whatever and they go ahead and take the open source code and build it, and then maybe engineering sees the value of it as a possibility and goes on after the fact. So I don't know if that's going to be too frequently happening, but it is a possibility that we have to look at, being that this is going to be open source going forward. The DAO doesn't always move the way that everyone anticipates it to do or wants it to do. And I know as core contributors, the engineering team wants to try to steer and protect the product as much as possible, but at the same time, being very hands-on and forceful in that manner may turn the DAO off.
We're up to the end of the time. I think we got your point. I'm going to leave just the last minute here because I think Ocean had one thing I want to key in on, and the last thing before we move to action items of this topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to challenge us all to think about the bounties slightly differently. If a lot of the bounties we're talking about are these big, multiple month engineering efforts that span not only engineering, but like project management and a lot of other assets or skills that these engineers that are out there hunting for bounties may not have or may not want to commit. Like 3 months worth of work in the space that we're in is insane. I would really like to see us try to do many smaller bounties that are led by the engineers in the core team as guiding new contributors as like the stepping stone to where we have people that can take on larger pieces of work. I think I've seen that model work elsewhere. And I think it's really like the direction we should try to take baby step towards before we get to these bigger, meatier bounties.
Cool. Like that, is that pairing? Like pairing with new people to onboard them and pay them?
It's like,
yeah, I think that'd be very effective. I'd like to see that happen. Formalized.
Every time I like it.
Cool. Talking about action items. We'll move on to the next topic. Some stuff I already wrote down. When we started this off is defining high level. Probably I shouldn't say product vision. I should just say vision. Willie's already going to take on an action item to do a review, particularly with engineering, because they weren't at the community one, where they talked about the higher level vision first and also talked about roadmap, because those are two different things. We had a discussion on how does engineering and the product work stream collab and plan on this vision. I'm not sure if we need any action there, but.
Well, I
Adam,
think you
brought that
can,
up.
you can put me on for, and I will also be coordinating with Bethany. And it'll be with lots of discussions. It's not like Bethany and I are not gonna be making any decisions, just the two of us. But to just lead the process to get engineering and product on the together about this.
Josh, I'm gonna put you in Bethany.
Yeah.
One idea that came was after we kind of have this defined, even though we do have a lot of stuff everywhere, it would be nice to have like a little one marketing sheet with a couple bullet points.
Yeah.
Bethany, it feels like we'll end up falling under design.
Sure.
Once we
Yeah.
do it.
You can put it on the notions. I can be really unpopular here, but can we put dates with these action items too?
Yeah.
Boy, that's hard to put a date like.
Oh.
Well, there's-
Yeah.
Pretty easy. What do you think?
We're doing the EPM meeting. Yeah, that's gonna be on Monday. So that's 12/5.
And after that, it's really about Josh and Bethany collaborating going forward. That feels like more of an ongoing thing.
Yeah, but there, I mean, if the deliverable is a one sheet that ultimately ends with like something that engineering can then use to be able to help vet what project or product and engineering uses to help vet what project we take on and then what the designs look like. And if sometime in January, maybe, because December with all the holidays seems like it's.
Yeah.
Also, I think we should include DeFi in that, because I think that the conversations we had in the last EMPM powwow, I feel like that really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to continue blowing out what we were.
Yeah, I mean, the process is gonna include everybody.
Okay.
I was just putting USI as leading the process.
One sheet week of January 3rd. So this is the first week of January after New Year's. Should have one sheet delivered. Cool. This is regarding this section of just bounties in general, probably out of order, in my opinion. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. There should be probably starting off to chatting with just the general bounty review process.
Yeah.
Well, first to clarify, I just want to clarify the point I made earlier, which is there's two kinds of bounties. There are the ones that we make that we want other people to take on to participate, and then there's the ones where an outside group comes to us. So we need to distinguish between.
Does Eric count as an outside group?
Yes.
Anything that's not the DAO is an outside group.
I wouldn't even consider Eric's like a bounty, like we call it for the outside. There is completely separate concepts.
Yeah,
It'd be like some random
didn't
guy
go through
saying,
governance
"Oh,
though.
And it wasn't. That's like the textbook definition of a bounty.
Anything that's not voted on through governance should be external. That was Eric wanting something. That wasn't the DAO wanting something.
Agreed.
So-
I do like Ocean's it too, and that was a nice synergy, and that's why we did it.
I really like Ocean's action item, like and I think we've talked about that. Let's try and make some more bite-sized, smaller bounties and stuff. And all of us, when we see an issue would be a good first issue, maybe instead of taking on ourselves, we can mark a good first issue and get into a process where we put a bounty on it and we let the community know, hey, if you pick up these tickets and merge them, you'll get 300 bucks, 200 bucks, you know.
So
Did we do something just like that?
We did two. We did
Had a mark
We did an
as
HD
first
wallet
issue.
one, and we did, what was the other one?
Unchained, Robston.
That was a bounty.
There was another one.
There was
There was
just on mobile.
There was a small.
MetaMask,
Yeah, that was HD wallet. Well, the point was that like, we got people and then the people didn't follow through on it. But, so what's the action item there? Do we just want to pick some more things?
Can we go smaller? Can we do like the bug board or something that's literally like a UI UX sort of thing?
Yeah,
We
and
don't
we
need to
have, like,
add MetaMask.
Julian's done like
Yeah.
15 of those.
Oh,
But if you can clean up a button, if you can make something that's really small,
Yeah, that's
that
what-
builds
so-
confidence.
We have success with that with Julian, with 420 Coop, like there's a couple people.
I mean, I also
So what I
think it makes it easier with time. I don't think that should necessarily dissuade us from posting bounties that are of the same level of difficulty as the two that failed. Because right now, like the level of community familiarity with the code base is extremely low.
So it's never changing the shit out of it, so
Yeah.
if you look back a week later, you
So worst case scenario, somebody's got to submit the bounty and that effort just gets wasted. But, you know, in the event that nobody picks up the work, we can just handle them like we handled the previous two.
Sure. So I would just
Hold on.
I would just propose that the action item is that I'll volunteer as an owner or someone else wants to be the owner of it, it's fine. But basically that, during stand up, I'm gonna try to look out for these issues that we agree are bountyable. I will take on posting the bounty to Gitcoin or wherever else we're posting it, and also facilitate the interactions with the engineers that are coming in to fill the bounty, and be the primary point of contact for that. And
ferocious.
We'll start from Bitcoin and I've been posting a couple, so we can work through the process.
So it doesn't kind of have to be just me, but I'll, I can take it on.
You can see it start.
Chris, very much enable people.
Yeah.
We have this where we want to make bounties to other people, but still, there's a big age out there is if someone proposes a bounty for the engineering work stream or for the DAO. Which goes back to something about, I was calling the bounty review process. There was the idea where maybe you should start with product, and does it align with the roadmap and the vision? There was also the consideration of, do we actually bring it in front of the community first and talk about it, and they help influence others to be part of it?
I think the one clear thing that I ever heard here is, for sure, it needs to be a conversation between engineering and product.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like, I heard the community and I think I said yes right in the beginning. I'm kind of like, I don't know, but for sure, engineering and product should talk before any bounty.
I think the discussion should be public, like anyone should be able to join.
But, you know, it's difficult to be publicly, if there are a lot of people involved. So I think engineering and product should give it the first pass. And then if it makes it through the first pass, we'll bring in the broader community.
And I think the action item is that we should get like 3 people to say, they'll get together, have a meeting and write down a proposed process that they can submit to the group saying, this is what we do.
Exactly, we'll never define it in this meeting, so it's about agreeing that we should have people get together and start talking about what the process should be.
Yeah.
Whether that should be just the work streams, whether that should be the team lead. Do we have any volunteers who want to help lead us?
I like to help.
I'd like to help.
Nice.
I want to be involved, but I don't want to lead it.
Oh, I just want to point out all on this discussion. I've just been listening along. But you can certainly set processes about how the work streams consider bounties, etc. I posted this in the stage chat too. But there's never going to be a way, nor should there be, to stop an individual from just posting a bounty. Like that is going to happen, whether the work streams want it or not. And certainly the work streams can say, well, we won't consider those. But you can't stop community members from just putting up bounties.
Yeah, this is about considering the bounties, not about whether they should be posted or not.
Is this a process that you do enforce retroactively on proposals that have passed that might be tertiary to the roadmap right now? Like, I feel like YATS was something that might be that.
Just because a proposal passes does not mean it's automatically prioritized. And yet
So,
that these
the answer to that question
is
yes.
So does that mean that we need to develop a process for even something like osmosis and that as well, or is that
Well, that's already almost, that's approaching the finish line.
Yeah, I think that's looking forward for
Any new one going forward?
that we prioritize. Yeah.
But I think osmosis is a great.
He said he
I mean, it's not started in V2 yet, so we need
I thought he
to
just
think about
meant
that.
Cool.
It's a good question.
So we have 2 last things.
There should be very engineering.
I think so.
Who wants to volunteer for it?
Volunteer for it.
Let's go volunteer for it. Awesome. Cool. Another one coming out of this, and this could be just another discussion within engineering about Highlander talking about 20% time. Should that be part of the engineering work stream, culture and process?
It's also going to need to go to governance, right? Because treasury funds are implicated.
I think in September, we actually.
It's a work stream. I think the work stream has the autonomy to make that. You can put my name on it. I could.
What did we were.
Just like they can always vote, or do work stream.
The work stream.
Exactly.
Decide to get community input about it.
Yeah, the budget of work stream.
What was the thing we were doing? Standards, what was the document we were trying to come up with? Yeah, we had a team agreement. That was.
This is gonna be related to this one for the action item. How do we get the project ready for community contribution?
So, yeah, one piece of that, which we talked about in the engineering leadership was getting a template for the design document so that when new projects want to think about contributing, they've got a template of you need to submit this type of design document. I know, Adam, you volunteered
Yeah, and I'm working with
Peter
tomorrow.
on this next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we get a start on that and then have a conversation and improvements, changes. whatever.
I'd like to, on part of that though, also, you know how we did with the wallet work, right? Where we started, okay, what's wallet V2 gonna look like? And we kind of drew some boxes and then like made it more and more detailed. I'd like to do that with the product in general. Once we can have a vision of it, right? I know I've got my proposed kind of idea there, but if we could start doing that, then we can plan the architecture, the overall architecture. How do we make it so that vehicle can just build little things that plug in really easily and all this stuff? And then I think that'll speak to the design document. Right?
It sounds like you want to be in this meeting with Adam.
Is that kind of along the same line? And
I mean, you've been such a fan of this. I was kind of thinking you might even volunteer when I asked.
Okay.
So we're gonna set it like 5, and we should get 2 more topics. We got some really good action items up here already. Is there any other action items that should be up here that we haven't talked about yet in terms of planning, bounties, that type of stuff? Seems like we got some good first steps of going back on the vision stuff, making sure we're all aligned and collaborating. Bounties, we're gonna get some processes going. With Ocean taking the lead for bounties, we want to give out to third parties. Willie, Tyler, Bethany, and Nick starting to talk about bounties that come into the engineering and product work stream. Josh is going to take the lead about talking about 20% time for the engineering work stream, and then getting the project community ready for contributing. Right now, I'm going to put Adam, CT, and Pete since they're already having a meeting.
I'd say just for all these, just making sure that we're understanding the kind of the ripple effect. So it's not just if you want to take 20%, for example, and you're working on that. That also means that when whatever product you're working on is ready, you need UI UX flow, you need operations to test. So just understanding just that kind of ripple effect and that understanding that other.
Yeah.
There's a cool, if you guys get into, don't want to do it, there's cool, I hate the fucking company, but Facebook has a cool framework. Actually, how to do this where it's not disruptive like that, where you essentially get it to a prototype MVP phase, release it, get data, and then it goes, cool, it's a little janky, now let's go clean it.
I mean,
up. But
any
it allows for
any 20%, if you know, any project that anybody works on, it's got to go through product design and engineering design before you write code.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not spending time writing. If we're creating design documents and winds up falling flat, well, we've used that time. But no one should be writing code unless it's gone through the design process and been like, okay, we're going to accept.
And accepting
I
bounty.
don't know, that sounds like a front-end focused thing to me.
We had a Discord. We got good action items.
Just one comment on Discord.
Yeah, I was saying that sounds very front-end focused to me. Just as an example, I already have an EIP 712 key implementation. That's a lot of code. We haven't, done anything about that, released it or whatever, but, and it will obviously need to go through product before that happens. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't write the code.
Well, design can be software architecture, not necessarily drawing pictures.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, our next topic, we're gonna move on to how to go with losing a lot of talent during the waves that didn't want to continue on with the DAO. We thought it would be a good idea to not talk about that, but focusing on recruiting efforts going forward. So I'll start the 10-minute clock on that, and we can have a little bit of a recruiting talk. Mish might be good for this one when we're talking about recruiting. So 10 minutes starts now.
You and I can start this conversation without naming names, people going elsewhere and got compensation more than we're paying. Do we need to look at what the market's paying? Like, is that what are the factors causing people to leave? And conversely, what are the factors that attract talent?
Yeah.
Or not a reason people aren't asking for jobs.
Did they go to Web 2 companies?
Yes.
Web 2's got to pay more to attract the good engineering talent because all the good ones are going to Web 3.
However,
Charlie took a lot of people to Web 3, but
That's it.
So this is someone that's moved on to another Web3 company. They pay more money than ShapeShift pays by a good amount.
Rather Web 3.
What you need to consider too is that,
Don't say that, Matt.
like other companies have hired somebody and obviously benefits. And even though we're hoping to, like, those are factors that somebody, especially families,
Yeah.
will really.
I've been talking to other engineering leads at other DAOs, even in DAO world, we're paying low salaries. I think it absolutely needs to be reviewed in the next budget cycle, like starting on March 1st. So let's say that the compensation piece is even keel. What do we do? What's our recruiting process? What's our vetting process? We don't have an HR team to run through a gamut of interviews and do a code test, but we have a whole open source code base now, right? So
We've got a community member with 700,000 followers on Twitter that can put tweets out. We'll have
Yeah.
people knocking down that door.
How do we even decide what talent we need? How do we know,
I think
And are we focused on hiring full-time contributors for the engineering work stream? Or, maybe the solution here is to start, if you fix the bounty thing and people start there, that's a code test.
That's right. Yeah.
I'd like to hear from Ocean because he mentioned something a couple of weeks ago about this. You seem to have some experience in this area.
Yeah, I mean, I've have previous experience basically fostering an open source community of developers through bounties that have moved to essentially contract work and then eventually to full-time hire, like a full-time contributor with the company. I think it's a great pipeline. I think they get to experience what it's like working with us. We get to experience what it's like working with them. They get fairly compensated for that work. And that would be certainly an avenue that I think as we expand the bounty program will become a pipeline for hiring. So I mean, hopefully that's something that we can grow.
And do you see that as a primary pipeline, or are there other pipelines that we should still consider?
I think we should still consider other pipelines, but that for when I ran market protocol, that was our primary pipeline. It's pretty much the only way we found engineers.
Just as a note, guys, John had to go, I think, to another meeting, but he did type something in stage chat regarding this. If you guys have the screen open, then you could read
it.
comment.
It's probably a novel.
No, it's not that bad. It's a paragraph.
Time for it to happen, but we did post up a bounty. We talked to somebody in India, and then we ended up recruiting somebody out of that bounty. So we did.
I can read a thing.
What better way to do it?
We posted a bounty. We knew the
Ocean? This is Ocean.
No,
Oh,
not me.
You're thinking of another guy.
He's not Indian. I assume.
He's actually
I know it's 2021.
Take on it.
No, not the guy from India. But didn't we give to Ocean from that bounty?
No.
Never mind.
No.
Where do you?
I got across an ocean.
That would have been a good.
Would have been great.
That would have been a good point. That would have been a good point.
Yeah.
But that freaking interview bounty thing seems win-win.
It's great.
Well, they
Yeah, they get paid.
It's like
We
a
get
different
it.
real work.
And we get a relevant.
Let me read John's things real quick. I'll just kind of paraphrase. I don't think the engineering work stream has tried too hard yet on pulling in new devs. Contributors and other work streams have been leading this on the way. There are plenty of ways to do it. Engineering just needs to be ready to give initial tasks, basic interviews, and get people in to contribute when the top of the funnel is filled.
That's right.
I kind of agree with that. It feels like you were so focused internally on what you guys were doing. In my experience at ShapeShift, the best engineers were made. We didn't some of the best contributors we had. We got them in the door and we trained them, and then they became very effective. Most of the people that we came in that are already really high, they ended up just revolving door, going back out. So I think the engineering work stream should really focus on that. Is how can you guys make new engineers, and what kind of work can you put into making new engineers to make your life easier? So I think a lot of it is getting apprentices in and finding a way for you guys to do less yourselves and distribute the work.
That just comes down to priorities.
College idea of recruiting programs that you guys have at the Northeastern Blockchain Association.
Yeah.
Getting those scholarships
Doing
and
mothers.
it's cheaper.
Start getting their kids when they're real young.
I was gonna say, like, it just comes to priorities. We gotta choose, like, do you want this live in 2 or 3 weeks? Do you want us to build the community? Like, there's so many of us, there's so many things we can focus on at once and do well.
But if we can get bounties done, which builds features and vet engineers at the same time, we kind of kill two birds with one stone.
It's gonna be slower though.
Well, I could probably consider offering Julian a job.
Well, I was,
Tried to recruit him.
you know, so we so flat out, him if you
I
like,
did, I tried to recruit him.
and saying we would pay you a full-time
Yeah.
salary?
Yeah, he's too busy.
But I mean, but that's the kind of thing, like, we would both say that because we've seen his PRs, even though they've been relatively small, they've been clean, straightforward, they've worked. Like,
I'd love
I would
more.
like to see more of that.
Yeah.
That just like you tried other things and that's what worked, or is that just the only?
We were small, so let's be clear there. We were much smaller than this group is. I mean, but I went to like every meetup in the area and tried to find talent that way. It was much harder to vet those people, to get them to contribute and find like a good fit. A lot of the people that were in the meetups, maybe that were excited about helping, didn't have the skill set that they needed to be able to be effective in the role. So this was for me the definitely the easiest way and the most scalable way to do it. So yeah, I one of the things that around like the time management piece that Amazon used to always do, and I hate to always bring that up, but they do some of the things really well, and one of the things is they scale well, obviously. But it was always a priority. Interviewing was always a priority. Growing teammates was always a priority. And that's the way that they continue to grow. So yeah, we're going to be slower by bringing in more engineers. We're going to be slower when we take time to write an issue that's bountyable versus an issue that any of you guys pick up easily. Like those things are going to take some time, but it's you know, it's an investment in the future of the DAO. And so it's like that trade-off is hopefully always worth it because we plan to grow considerably from the team that we have now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a big question right now because we don't have a pipeline of bounties that we have people coming in and working on, right? And so we feel like we need time to build that up, and then we'll kind of naturally, hopefully, get people who will be willing to offer jobs to. Right now, there's just nobody in that pipeline.
Yeah.
Function with an action item based on where he's gonna start.
Yeah, and so I would recommend that we start that. I mean, I'm gonna start that immediately, but start it slowly because we're gonna learn a lot from those first 15 contributors. And I don't think it's a good idea to have like, you know, Eric tweet right now, but those first 15 contributors might be total guinea pigs and we'll probably screw it up with 10 of them. But you know, it'll lay the groundwork and show us where we need to improve, that then the next 15 is way better. And the next 15, you know, we hire 5 of them. or something.
It also stresses the importance of like making all of our jobs stickier, you know, so someone doesn't come in for one bounty and then hop onto another DAO or something else who's paying better or something that's a little bit, you know, that was really interesting here and they want to do it somewhere else. So finding a way to make it so that they do want it. So this investment in long term actually does become long term and not just 3 months, 6 months, because then it is better if we just do it ourselves.
Yeah, we could very well use some investments in onboarding and retaining the talent. And I think I totally agree. Investing a little bit of time and having a pipeline of these issues, so when someone comes, they're available, and then we have more issues, so they stick around. And I think we can do both. I think, you know, I love that we can get the best of both worlds and we can have the bounties to bring talent in and hopefully retain them, but also still put out some job postings. I think there are different types of developers that some will be looking for that full-time position, and we can still say, hey, take a bounty on as part of your code test, basically, and you'll still get paid if you do it. And then we bring them on full-time. But I do think, yeah, I mean, the engineering resources of the DAO is going to be one of our competitive advantages, basically. If we can attract and train and onboard and retain top engineering talent, that's going to make our success, and if we can, it can break us, basically. And I don't think it's something that we necessarily should be cheap on. I was saying that Web 2 startups have to pay more to attract talent. That's something we should use to our advantage because we're cool as fuck and we can attract cool talent. But we should also pay them handsomely. And like if we have a big ass treasury, and if we can be paying for people who are coming on talent and retaining this engineering talent, it's going to be a great investment and it's going to be worth it for us. So I don't think we should be cheap.
But I actually want to ask me some question for it. If you were products now and to go recruit people, what would be looking at it? What would you think the challenge for be compared to the other ones?
I agree with the social media. I think that you always have that pipeline. Because the last thing you want to do is like need an engineer, because by the time you need someone, it's too late. So you should have like a group that you can call on already. So if you have people that are doing the bounties and they have a good experience, they have like 30 people you can call on, like who's ready to be full time. Like,
Yeah.
let's throw a pitch at them. So
How would you sell engineers on the phone on the first call? Working for a DAO?
great question. I think that we should figure that out, right? And
No,
to
that's a good
say,
point.
it's just like the user experience, right? Like you don't expect someone to come to ShapeShift the product and be happy to exist. It's the same with the DAO. Like you can't just expect your users who are your employees to come to it and just be happy to exist. You have to actually like create that journey roadmap for the user, which is your employee. So like there should be like time, thought, and effort into like, why are you excited to be here? What will keep you here? And then when they're leaving, how will they like do that word of mouth to get people to you? So like think about it from like not just how do we get people in the door, but like the overall strategic thing. Like you think about ShapeShift, like how do we become competitive?
Right. Actually, it's one of the things we've been thinking about on the product work stream, because our first proposal, and it was very early to pass for 4 months. Our next proposal is going to be to fund this for 6 months, because you don't want people like wondering if they're still going to be able to participate in the work stream in 3 months, especially if we're trying to retain some talent.
Well, now,
Two people, both of their things. So
really quick, like, this was a pretty good discussion. Thumbs up, do we want to keep talking about it? Thumbs down if we don't.
I think we're good to go.
Seems like we're going in the thumbs down category. Niche, thank you.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say is like this right here. is
Additional things were always job security.
I think people are getting really tired to keep like working remote. And so sometimes you don't want to work for like a decentralized organization. You're completely remote. And you like talk to people and coming to an office. Like this even energizes me just sitting here. So like if you can even set up like some sort of stipend for your employees, like you can create like little communities. I think I don't know.
Thank you.
All right, so one thing I heard is we need a compensation review just to see how we're paying the general market.
That's me.
Can we just add one thing to that also, which I think we should explore other avenues that would incentivize retention of talent through the token model. I think like I was shot down before by some people, but I think that there's like a really awesome ways that we can do this that make it so people will want to stay regardless of the 4-month thing, based on tokens. So
performance-based incentives as well.
Well, we need to, and we also remember that working for DAO is very high risk compared to.
Yes.
And so like the compensation needs to, like, we lost half our engineers because they thought this was too easy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, about that.
Because it's too risky.
Just to work in.
So we need to
The risk.
take that into account.
I think,
That's why-
Josh, when we talk about the compensation review, it isn't just salary. It's talking about what Ocean said, the token model part, it's.
Retention.
I said about, performance-based incentives.
Yeah.
So really thinking about it at high level. Does anyone else want to work with Josh on this?
I'm happy to.
I have some experience
Oh, yeah.
recruiting engineering.
Yeah, I'm very, it's between everything, DAOs and non-DAOs. Even though we gave a bunch of, they were 5 to 10% raises when we became a DAO. We're still.
It is the market right now, it's like crazy. Other
insane.
Yeah.
Josh, I don't know if you've reached out to any of the people over at Olympus, but they recently launched a pretty strong recruiting effort with, or a big recruiting effort with strong compensation packages. So I imagine they've had a lot of interactions with interested engineers. It seems like we've had a good experience working with them in other areas.
I've actually am talking to one of their lead engineers on Discord.
Cool.
Yeah.
So using bounties as code tests, we already have one action item in the last one where Ocean's gonna take on, starting to build out the backlog of these. One kind of thing I was hearing is, besides just putting it on the GitHub bounty thing, how are we marketing these bounties to attract people in?
Yeah, I think it's on that note, that this is relevant. Mission Colony is about to be launching a new program. We're a launch partner. They'll feature all the bounties that we do have, even if they're just in our GitHub or if they're on Gitcoin, wherever they are. They'll feature them on their website. They expect to have a lot of developers checking it out, which could end up they think could come be interested in our bounties, and they're going to reward extra tokens on top of it. So it's pretty cool. It's almost like we can subsidize all of these engineering bounties that we create going forward.
I was actually surprised when we posted the Gitcoin, we actually got like 4 to 6 people per one. It just happened to be the ones we selected fell through.
Yeah, but
it seemed like there was enough interest.
So maybe we don't need an action item, just something to keep in the back of your mind as we start doing this.
We always can have John tweet and then Eric tweet, right?
When John tweeted about product, massive, massive.
Like real.
Yeah.
So does anyone also want to, with Ocean, he's gonna also have to do the backlog and finding them, we'll probably need a little bit of a process of what people are doing these bounties. How do we get them into the code base, get them started? Assuming someone should probably work with them.
I'm volunteering.
Well, you'd be good for this.
I would, but I wouldn't.
It's kind of develop onboarding process.
Yeah.
That's there. And then what's the DAO pitch? It was kind of the question I was asking Nish. We were trying to get someone to recruit full time. How do you pitch it? How do you say, well,
Can work from anywhere in the world.
somebody just say it in US dollars. Come up with this pitch because this actually extends outside of these work streams.
Tell me this last.
So I'd like to volunteer with you to rally enthusiasm.
Really cool. I don't know if you guys have seen, but we have a cool new DAO careers page, and it does have a lot of these cool benefits.
Yeah, it
Work
does.
work anonymously.
It's a really nice page.
Yeah, and we can improve it. It's just the first draft.
Yeah.
But it's even like things on top of that of, that our treasury committee is trying to build 18 months worth of stable coins. Like, so it has more job security than some random DAO that might disappear in 3 months.
We get
So how do we?
I don't know if stability is our biggest pitch.
We need a one sheet that's.
Anyone else want to work with Noah on coming up with the elevator pitch?
I think we'll.
Yeah. All right, when it comes to recruiting, any other action item that I include up here that we should have up here, that during the discussion?
I think before they do a tweet, they should.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I was just saying that's how we get lead when we're ready for that.
Yep.
Are you guys trying to target hires? Like, are we trying to hire full-time people?
Yes.
Yeah, come back to the DAO.
Is there is there a number on that? How many you're trying to hire? I haven't seen it.
Well, we lost 2, so we at least have 2
Okay.
that were in the budget
And
that we
that's
lost since
publicly
the
posted.
budget was created.
That's publicly posted that we're, okay.
It's not,
It's the.
They were in the
it's not publicly posted.
Yeah. That'd be a good start.
Yeah, we get this publicly. Like, is there?
Oh, like on the careers page, is that like?
Yeah,
is that
and then
what-
Even if there's job descriptions, like, it's like, I know it's a totally different avenue than a lot of the stuff we're talking about, but like, we're looking for a front end person, or we're looking for, what kind of engineer, like, I mean, all that stuff I think would be helpful for all of us to just disseminate to our networks.
So we need job descriptions.
Who wants to take the lead on?
I will.
posters? So we get Josh.
Maybe we even could like get onto
Where did they
podcast,
go?
almost like a Tesla day.
I
Where
can
they
be
just,
honest, it's
they're
the
showing off their tech just to recruit.
Oh.
that's what we're using. We can use these chili pepper forms. It's pretty nice. And so the cool thing about it,
But and then, so we can put those up, and if we get someone who says, I'm interested, the question is, what do we do? Like, the idea is that we're gonna give them bounties to work on, but we have no bounties for them to work on, so.
I'm gonna solve that.
It's also, I mean, I'll work on getting them up there, don't get me, I mean, I'm not saying I won't do that, but the whole problem is like, we don't have an interview process to,
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
that's what this all needs to.
Yeah,
Fine, so one of the.
You need a pledge
action
program.
items up here is Adam and Ocean as they're coming up with these bounty process. What's the process if someone wants to take on the bounty? How do you get them introduced to the code base? How do you, all that fun stuff. So we got that covered. And Josh, while you're doing the compensation review with Noah and CT, they'll start building up the backlog of bounties that way. So I think it would all come together at once, timing wise, with all the different action items going on.
Okay.
And Josh, if we want to define a process, just like even like just a very bare bones template that we like think is fine for now, and we can revise it, I'm happy to sit.
That's like an interview, like just.
Yeah, like they
until
do
we
these
have
bounties,
this.
they meet with these people.
Yeah.
This is the way in that we need to say, yes, this is
Yeah.
good go.
And maybe it's once someone actually comes in is interested, that kind of forces us to figure it out.
Or I'm happy to do it with you next week and just
Yeah.
get some at least general idea of this is.
You can borrow a product or two recently with our hiring processes and stuff. We can share everything we did.
We have a big docs repo. I think that would be a great place to put a lot of this stuff publicly accessible.
All right, so we have one more coffee talk topic we could talk about. We are getting close to 5. Trying to get time. And this was talking about Git flow. Do we actually want to know? Let's schedule the
I'm out.
Is there anybody on the engineering work stream that wants to keep Git flow?
I want to keep some semblance of it, even if it's not strictly. Okay.
We need a different meeting.
I just wanted to find out.
Anything to this point because we're so early on in a small group.
I think we should just went with the alternative option.
All right, it's just.
It's unique, it's all.
I'm feeling generous. James, you're taking the lead on setting up this meeting. Yeah.
All right, the subversion it is.
Oh, we just do CBS.
Can we just call it branching model? So it's,
Yeah.
just call it what's your branching strategy.
Let's talk about Git flow in 2 minutes,
Who's gonna like this? Always have fun. It's fun. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, he's volunteered to document it all into Notion.
How many bucks is he getting for doing this?
Not enough. Not enough.
I'm gonna stream over the next 3 years.
Thank you so much for facilitating this. I know. Hey,
This is my last little. No, I'll do the trade up probably by Monday morning at the latest. Josh, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, I got it. I'll send it.
Yeah, I'll send it out in like the Genesis Box channel, just so everyone can, or maybe I'll send out one of the more open channels. Yep, and you guys can go rock and roll on it. Anything else before we end for the day? Anybody that's listening on Discord, anything to add, before we end and go do whatever we do?
we're all gonna go eat dinner. Well, everyone's invited to go eat dinner at least. I don't know where.
Do you guys want to?
We got. Everyone should eat dinner.
Foundation
Street.
I mean, do you guys want to go to, I was thinking about maybe Hop Daddy, and they got
like that.
drinks and burgers and all that kind of stuff.
Sterling can change his own.
Right?
Was there some comment on Discord?
Is that what it's
called? Hop Dotties.
Hop Daddy.
Hop Dotty. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Clean up, put stuff back and.
Yeah, let's clean up everything.
Finally, I did. Oh, yeah, I'm here. Right.
What channel did you use?
I came to Pixel Plant Town.
Oh, Fox.